Hey, hello everyone. This is Edouard from Arturia, and today I'm super happy to be with you because we're talking about pigments, and we've been working super hard this last month for you to provide you with a free update and hopefully make this wonderful instrument much better than it was before. So yeah, this little bit I made was made just using let's say, one of the 15 first presets of Pigments. So this was just an introduction, and today we are going to talk a little bit of like the development, what was the idea behind the update, and then discuss a little bit the features you can find in Pigments, and hopefully I can give you some insights and little tricks to better understand what's inside. And of course, we'll listen to a few sounds in the beginning, and then at the end, maybe we can just design a small preset together, a small sound. We'll see how it goes. And yeah, so I'm super happy to be here. I hope you're having a great you will have a great time. And yeah, this is our last meeting before the end of the year, so welcome to everyone. So in the first place, let's talk maybe we can start by some sounds actually. So what could be cool is to play, let's say, 10 sounds of the new factory. And then there is one of the banks we've made. So we've made 3 new banks for Pigments. One is a cinematic bank. One is like a lo-fi trap-ish sound bank, so more hip-hop, modern hip-hop. And the last one is more neuro-based, so like super punchy and chemical sounds. So let's say we're going to play a few sounds from the factory, then maybe a few cinematic patches, and as a matter of contrast, we'll play a few bass and harsh sounds from the neuro bass. So let's play a few sounds, and then let's get started to talk about the updates. So this first sound. This first sound is using the Shimmer reverb, but without pitch shifting. So we are going to check this preset later and talk about how the Shimmer is used to make the sound. I really like this one actually. It's super modern. So let's check something else. This one I made this preset. So it's sort of pad that is really, really angelic and ethereal in the high ends, but if you play it low, you will see it kind of harsh. So let's try this out. A bit of contrast here. So this one is made with the new samples we've integrated, so it's kind of ravey. I really like this one. This one is really interesting. It's weird timbre. Oh, this one is really funny because the way you play it, it gives like different patterns. It's kind of constantly offsetting by itself. Like, let's check it out. You see, if I play it like all tight, it sounds like this. And if I play it like with notes one by one, so like this. Kind of good material to resample this. This one is kind of ravey. Really like this one. This one is really amazing. It's made using the MS-20 filter. We're going to look at it later. Let's just listen to it briefly. All right, so maybe we can check a few songs from the cinematic bank now. I really love this bank. I think it's my favorite from the 3 ones. This bank is really inspiring if you're looking to make sci-fi sounds or video games or movie sounds. There are really a lot of different stuff here. Really inspiring. We can hear a little bit the Shimmer reverb behind. We're going to look at it right after. Yeah. It feels like PlayStation games from the 90s, early 2000s maybe. There's an insane sub on this one. Ooh. Like there are a lot of like early trance kind of presets that are halfway between cinematic and trance presets. It's really nice. This is beautiful. Nice. Another one? Nice. Really nice to build tension. Nice. Okay, maybe we can check a few presets from the newer bass bank. So the contrast will be kind of huge because it's really like really punchy in your face sounds only. So this one called Angry Dog. You can hear the voice in the background. There's an insane sub on this one. Let's try this one. Bad turn. Oh. Yeah, you need to be careful for your ears on this one. Beautiful violins. There are some people who are saying there's no bass in Pigment, but bro, I don't understand. This one's gnarly. Okay, a last one maybe? Oh. Oh, mama. If you're doing some drum and bass, you can use that right away on your track. All right. Okay, so we had a little snippet of the new presets. There is also a lo-fi bank that I wanted something with a lot of contrast, so maybe we can talk a little bit of the development now. So starting Pigments 4, we wanted to address certain things. The first thing I noticed interviewing artists and users is that we grew Pigments quite a lot. And well, 1 engine, 2 engine, 3 engine, 4 engines, a lot of modulators, you know, it's starting to be a real beast. And I felt like some people are sometimes not really comfortable with the overall complexity of the product, even though we have been praised a lot for, you know, taking care of coming up with a great workflow and, you know, making all the visual feedback, you know, obvious, seeing the modulators in action, all this kind of stuff. But ultimately, it's really a big tool. And sometimes if you want to browse presets and you don't really want to be disturbed by everything going on and, you know, just focusing on what's essential, well, I figured maybe we can work on a view that is really streamlined to search for presets and, you know, adjust the tiny parameters that you need without losing focus. And this is actually the play view. So we did some user research. I really looked at different artists to see what they are doing when looking at presets, what are the main controls they like to use, what are the controls that are like their go-to controls. And basically I designed a view with pretty much everything you need to look for sounds. And when you found the right preset, well, make it yours or make it fit in your project. So with the play view, you have basically the two engines, the utility engine for the noises and the sub-oscillator, your filters, your amplitude envelope, and basically access to the effects. And with this view, you have pretty much everything you need to look for sounds, make the sound yours, and, you know, stay focused on really being productive without like falling in the sound design. You know, Pigments is really nice to make sound design, and I'm sure a lot of people are really happy with it. But you know, this view is like pretty much what you need to search for new sounds, and I hope you will like it. And in the beginning, I felt like it's more for beginners, and actually a lot of people around me and even artists send me messages. It's quite nice because it gives you a great overview of what's going on a preset. So, you know, when I change presets like this, you can instantly see if there is movement, what type of engine is used, etc. So it's really, really convenient. All right. Then we can maybe jump on something else. I'm going just to change the bank right now, like this. Okay. All right. So as you may have noticed, we also worked quite a lot. This was actually a huge piece of work to update the overall GUI. And we really wanted to fix some of the, corner cases, or let's say pain points in the GUI, and make the GUI, of course, more modern, and sometimes make some of the locations in the instrument more clear or more easy to understand. So for example, we've redesigned the wavetable engine and tried to make it a bit more like user-friendly, with some little lines to show you where the modulator is acting, and this kind of details. Or if you take out the sample engine and open the granular section, before it wasn't like that. And now the parameters, which are really like the proper values, like the density or the grain shape or the size, are white and located on the top. And everything that is randomizing the granular engine is located on the bottom. And now I think it's really easier to distinguish who is who and what is doing what. So basically everything on top is like actual parameters, and everything at the bottom is actually randomization of these parameters. So, and we did another effort on the harmonic engine, and here we've laid it out a bit differently, and I think it's really easier to understand what it does, and to not be kind of intimidated by it. So of course we've made a lot of efforts as well, for example on the pop-ups, like making the pop-ups more clear and easy to understand, to sort the effects, for example. Talking about the effects, we've also reorganized all the parameters on the effects to have more consistency, and maybe more like to have it more adequate with the audio pass and this kind of stuff. So it's really an effort to make everything more clear, and I think that putting everything together, the result is really there. So yeah, of course there are a lot of details that I haven't shown already, but for example, even this tuning pop-up, we've kind of sorted the parameters in a way that you understand, it's easier for you to understand what it does, so all the key tracking modes are together, and the fixed frequencies together, and all these details put together are really making the product easier to use. So one of the latest surprises about the design is also the light view. So like in your operating system, you have the choice of having a dark GUI and a white GUI, and I feel like it's really two different schools. Some people prefer white, some people prefer dark, and so we've decided to come up with the two options, and I hope you find either the white or the dark one to your convenience. So personally, I really like both. I'm more a dark person, but I really enjoy the white one as well. So if you have an atmosphere with a lot of sun or reflections, sometimes the white one is easier maybe to distinguish with reflection on the screen and so on. Of course, if you work at night in your studio, you might find it a bit too bright, so that's why we have both options for you. So I'm sticking to the black, if you don't mind. And yeah. So what else can I say? Yeah, I think there is one important thing to mention, is that we spend a lot of time to like optimize, especially the audio engines. So whether it's the harmonic engine or the sampler or the granular, we really struggled, and we tried to reduce as much as we can the CPU consumption, because we know that it's a problem for some of you guys. And apparently it's really better for a lot of people. So we will continue to improve after the time passes, and I hope we can even get better at this. All right, now we've talked about visual. Maybe now we can talk about UX and UI, maybe, and quality of life. So I will just load a preset. This one maybe. Yeah. So what we've done is we've noticed that since the time passed, since Pigments have been released, we've been praised a lot with the quality of the workflow and so on. And the time passed, and now the expectations are higher, and we all want to be more productive and faster when we work. So we've came up with some improvement to make your life easier as a musician. So the first important point is the implementation of the modulation drag and drop. And basically what it is that you can take a modulator here, you can drag and drop it directly on a parameter of your choice. And you can hear it. I haven't dropped already, but it previews the modulation when you over a parameter, which is really nice. If you want to go like a bit like in a random workflow, you can just try parameters one by one until you find something that you like. And if I change the view, you will see the action. So now I've mapped my LFO on the pulse width modulation, and now it acts by itself. It modulates the parameter, and I can adjust the modulation amount with my mouse without jumping into the assign mode or with this little plus into the destination mode. So of course you still have access to the former workflows, but this one is here to make just your life easier. And if you want to go deeper in the modulations, like assigning side chains and this kind of tasks, well, you can still use the assign mode, of course. And yeah, and honestly, this is really a huge improvement because it reduces the number of clicks quite considerably. But most of all, for the people who had difficulties to understand the concept of modulation or to understand the concept of assign mode, this kind of stuff, well, if you see that the parameter is moving like this and you put your mouse on it, you instantly see that there is a parameter and that this movement can be controlled with your mouse. So it helps you guess that you can interact with this workflow. So it's really nice, I think. And it really makes a huge difference. And still talking about modulations and LFOs. So back in the days, we didn't have presets like this. And these little shapes are actually preset shapes to help you design the shape of the LFO you want. And especially for the simple shapes, sometimes it felt a bit complicated with all these parameters, which are really nice because you can do crazy stuff with them. But now we just simplified the workflow if you need to be fast, actually. So you can just select the mode that you prefer and run with it. So this is also a very good addition, I think, to make your life easier when designing sounds or just when modifying sounds whenever you need. And yeah, and another thing I wanted to mention, I won't demonstrate it here, but we've added a new sync mode here. And what it's for is basically it mixes all the time divisions all together. So the straight divisions, triplets, and dotted. And it helps you, like for example, when designing automations, a lot of people are sometimes mixing, let's say you have a wobble or something, you're probably using, I don't know, triplets, and maybe sometimes you want to switch to dotted just for the end of a bar or something. And back in the days, you couldn't really do it without creating two instances or finding some tricks. So now if you want to be flexible, well, you can just select this sync mode and mix the divisions that you want all together in a blink. And that's really convenient for some people, especially if you're designing automations, actually. So yeah. So now I think we can talk about some features that are maybe more related to the sound. So two of them are actually in front of you right now. And I'm going to hold this harp again, actually. And first of all, we're going to talk about the ring modulation. So back in the days, this section was called frequency modulation, and now we've renamed it to ring modulation and frequency modulation because we've added a new mode here, which is ring modulation. and it acts on the amplitude of the signal instead of the frequency. And to come with it, we've also modified a little bit the range of the modulator so that you can go from very slow to super fast. And what ring modulation does, basically, when it's slow, it does like this, it creates movement. Like a vibrato, actually, but it's on the amplitude, so it's really on the volume. Well, more commonly, we can call it tremolo, actually. And now that the tuning of the modulator is super, super wide, you can go from super slow motions like this to really, really fast. And yeah, it's really, really nice. And you can even modulate the rate to create weird movements like this, for example. Yeah. And experiment by yourself, of course. And like I showed right before, this section called phase transform has been renamed, and we've added a new algorithm called pulse width, because back in the days it was only phase distortion, and this algorithm is a bit different. It's really the classic pulse width that you might expect from a synthesizer or analog synthesizer. And it's really, really sounding great and super natural, and you can modulate it from an LFO, for example, or you can also modulate it from the modulator like this, or from the other engine if you select cross modulation like this. And it sounds really, really nice. You can do like more classic sounding stuff, and it sounds very, very natural, so I really, really like this one. All right, now we can talk about a new feature that we've added that is really important, I think. Let's keep a bit of movement here. Like this. So this new feature I wanted to talk about is the MS-20 filter. So in the collection, we've released the famous MS-20 filter, partnership with Korg, the MS-20 synth, sorry. And we've decided to implement the MK2 version of the MS-20 for several reasons. So the first one is this like typical grit that you can have with this filter. It sounds really different from the others, and it can be really harsh and really grainy. But at the same time, it has a special trick. It really boosts the subs a lot. And if you're looking to do like very, very deep basses, I'd definitely recommend to try this one. So on this preset, you cannot really hear it a lot, but on the next presets, I will show you. So here, I'm just gonna add a little bit of grit on this sound. Like this. All right. And so this preset is really, really lovely, but maybe I can show you the dark side of this filter with something more like extreme, let's say. So I'm gonna load this patch, I think. Let's try with this one. So it's kind of a 808 kick. So this is the kick I used in the track during the intro. And basically, what I told you, it boosts the sub a lot. Just listen if I change to another filter like Matrix 12 or SM. Here you have some proper low ends. And another cool trick with it is that it distorts. So if you just turn up the volume on its input, maybe lower a little bit here. even with some resonance, it's really a sub machine. And it's really complementary to Pigments. I think Pigments was lacking a little bit a gnarly filter like this, and really the sub boost, when you use it wisely, it makes a huge difference. Like, and sometimes you need to be careful with your mix though. So yeah. And for example, on this preset, our friend Florian, one of our sound designers, used the MS-20 filter. And if you look at carefully, he's not using any engine. And that's because he's actually generating the sound with the resonance of the filter, and just probably exciting the filter with a little bit of noise here. So I played this one during the beginning, and it's really nice, and it's really trappy and very nice for modern, like urban music. And as it's a filter that we modeled on a real hardware, and that is really meant to mimic the character, you can see that the keyboard tracking is not really perfect in high octaves, and it gets a bit noisy, but it's what makes the character of the sound, you know. So if I remove the keyboard tracking here, will be one single note, right? And what Florian did on his patch is that he assigned the keyboard modulation to the cutoff of the filter. And now when you play a note, it moves the filter cutoff to the according note. So then you can just play the filter instead of an oscillator. It's really smart, and it gives a unique sounding kind of reset, and I really like this one. Yeah, so maybe we can have a look at this one. So this one, I made it, and I played it in the beginning. And so I used a different trick here, but it's kind of similar. So of course, I'm generating the sound with engines. But what gives this really strange sound is that instead of mapping the keyboard, I used the engine 2. That is really not, like, I muted this engine. You cannot hear it, actually. But I used this engine to modulate the cutoff of the filter, and it does like FM on the filter. So if I remove it, you don't really have this like texture that is really weird and aggressive. And if I raise, and this is what gives this like kind of organic touch to this preset. It feels a bit more like alive. So I kind of like it, and I like the duality of the preset. Like if you play in the high octaves, it's kind of ethereal, and if you play low, not really ethereal at all. Oh. So yeah. So now maybe I can jump on the next feature. So I loaded this preset, and it's part of the cinematic bank. So originally it's using a reverb, and I decided to use the new effect instead to show you guys how it works. So let's play the preset first. And the feature I want to talk about using this preset is the Shimmer reverb. And this is really the key to make like cinematic soundscapes and, you know, ambient patches with really an angelic touch, let's say. So here, I'm not really applying any pitch shift, so it's just acting as a reverb. So I will show you how it sounds. It's really a nice preset, by the way. So for those who don't really know what is a Shimmer reverb, basically what it is, it's a reverb. And in the middle of the reverb, we have a feedback loop and a pitch shifter. And if you turn this knob called feedback, what it does is that it re-injects the signal with a pitch shift applied to the signal. So here, my pitch shift is at 0, but I'm going to put it at 1 octave, like this. And I'm going to turn on the feedback, and basically, it will not pitch shift right now. And if I turn up the feedback, you can hear this like tail that is like rising, and this is the Shimmer reverb. So it's really convenient to create this kind of ambiances, and depending on the pitch shift you are applying, well, you would create different moods. I mean, for example, if I use like one semitone, it will sound not really harmonic, but it will create a mood that is really like strong. Listen. It kind of sounds out of tune, but you know, it can be really convenient depending on the situation. So now I'm going to apply 7 semitones, for example. And here it's still kind of not really harmonic, and it's normal because when it feedbacks, it applies 7 semitones to the signal. So if you apply it 1 time, it will sound good, but if you apply it 2 times, it will equal to 14 semitones. So it's not really in scale, let's say. And there is a secret trick. I don't think some people covered this before. So here you have what is called harmonized mode. And what it does, well, it's made especially for these situations where you're not applying 7 semitones, like an octave, sorry, but you're applying different like tonal offsets, for example, 1 or 5 or 7 or 9. And especially with 7, 9, and 5, where it can sound really good, well, what it does is that when you play the note, so the feedback will apply 7 semitones. And right before re-injecting the signal into the feedback, we will apply compensation, meaning that the signal is sent to the feedback, we apply 7 semitones, then we apply 5 semitones so that it equals to 1 octave. And then the signal is re-injected, and we apply 7 semitones, then we reapply 5 semitones so that it's an octave. And you will see the difference. I will play without it. And now I'm going to compensate with 1 octave. And now it sounds harmonic. It's really nice. And what's sick, actually, I don't think you can find something like this elsewhere yet. What's sick is that you can do it in the opposite way. Like we can apply a compensation, but to the lower octave, so that it stays in tune and harmonic, but it will go down. I'll show you without it. And octave down. And it's really awesome to do cinematic sounds. Like, I think the sound designers who worked on a cinematic sound, Monk had a lot of fun because the Shimmer is really unlocking some new possibilities for the instrument. And I wanted to jump back on this preset, if you remember at the beginning. So as you can see, it really relies a lot on the reverb and on the Shimmer actually, but it's not really using pitch shifting. The sound designer, Maxime, one of our sound designers, well, he used the Shimmers just to provide like a feedback reverb without pitch shifting. But as you can see, if you play several notes like this, well, the reverbs are really blending all together and it's kind of messy. And if you look at the Shimmer reverb, we've added a special feature called ducking. And what it does is that it kind of filters the feedback and the reverb when you play new notes. So as there is new signal coming in, it will kind of clean the reverb and the feedback loop so that, you know, you won't be annoyed by like frequencies overlapping too much. If I play now, so it's really, really extreme. I would put it at the half, and now it's really much cleaner, and it's really convenient if you don't want to have something too messy. And it's kind of a flush for your feedback loop, actually, and it helps keeping your Shimmer reverb more like tamed and not taking too much space, because this can be a problem. Like Shimmer reverbs take a lot of space, you know. And so now maybe I need to be quick because it's already 45. So I wanted to make a preset with you guys. So really quickly. So I've prepared a little bit the preset before. So I'm just going to enable what I think is great to do. So what I wanted to do is a kind of growl and half between a swoosh and a growl. Let's say a bit like drum and bass sound, very modern and very aggressive. And so what we are going to do, we're going to start with a wavetable oscillator and a very, very clean waveform. Let's say sine wave. And what I want to do now is to make this sine wave dirty. And to do that, I'm not going to use the modulator. I'm going to use the other engine. And the other engine, like the patch I showed you before, I'm going to mute it so that we don't hear it. And instead of hearing this engine, I'm going to use it to create harmonics in this sine wave. So what I want to do is to assign a function, this function, to the phase modulation. I personally prefer phase modulation overall because it's easy to make harmonics without really altering the pitch. So right now it's a sine wave. And now I'm going to assign the phase mod with the function 1. Like this. And now you have a kind of nasty sound. So depending on the waveform you're using, for example, you're playing different timbres. And remember, this is not this engine you are hearing. This is the other engine being modulated by this wavetable. And you can actually do that from this little section and change the wavetable. And what I'm doing is that I'm modulating the position of the wavetable using the function 1 as well to create more movement and more like timbres. But it's already pretty nasty, like this. So maybe what I can do now is tame a little bit the sound because it's kind of super aggressive, and we are going to add some more aggressiveness afterwards. So here I'm using a matrix 12 filter with this like phase low pass mode that is kind of strange, but I kind of like it. And let's hear what it does. And at the same time, we're modulating this filter with the function 1. okay, this will be fine. So now I don't really like to have this like sine wave in the beginning. I'd rather have the the engine playing like the timbre evolving with the amplitude as well. So I'm going to modulate the amplitude with this same function all the way to the max, like this. And now you don't have this drone like hanging around before we even hear the timbre. All right, this is nice. So now, so I'm going to add a distortion. So what I want to do basically is modulate this distortion with the function as well. So everything kind of on the same parameter, kind of like a throttle of a car. Everything revolves around these movements. So here we're creating a bit more like texture. All right. And one of the additions we've made is that we added a new mode in the distortions and in the MIDI filter. It's the notch mode. And this will create a bit of like movement. So the LFO is assigned to this one. I'm going to disable the retrig and having like free movement on this one, so that every time you play a note, it starts a bit differently. All right, it works. And now we are going to use one of the new effects actually. So this is called the super unison. So basically what it is, it's a insane chorus. So you have different parameters. You can choose the number of voices you want in your chorus. And here I want something which is really wide and dense. So I'm going to use maybe 7 or something. And so you can control the amount of detune, and there is a modulation on the tuning. So you can really like shape the movement the way you want. So here I think I'm going to leave it like by default. It's nice. But I really removed the effect on the low ends to preserve like the low frequencies. So now I'm going to turn it up. So the difference is huge. Like, let's hear it without it. You hear like how super wide it is now. And I could have used actually the engine unison, but this takes less CPU and there is less like phasing and so on. Yeah, I can show you how it does with the classic unison. And I prefer the effect actually. There is too much of something on the right, something on the left. It's kind of messy for something where you have low frequencies. So I'm just going to turn off the unison on the engine. And now I'm going to use the super unison because that's what it's made for actually. This little button is really nice. If you enable it, like the phase of all so just to summarize, this super unison, it's like copies of your signal. And what it does when you have this retrig button on is that all these copies are starting from the same phase. So it's centered and then everything is detuned away from the center. So I kind of like this because the attack is a bit more sharp, but you are not really, you can use it whatever you want. Here we don't really need it because the beginning we don't hear the sound. So I'm going to remove it. So here. And now what I want to do is to add a multi-band compressor, an OTT, to like increase the sharpness and the artifacts of the sound. So I'm going to turn up the input volume because I want everything to come up, and basically I want everything that is low to be loud. So I'm going to turn down a little bit the output. All right, and now you hear like a lot of different stuff going on. So of course it reduces the dynamics, so you need to be careful with this parameter. But now it's really nice. And now what you can do is like turn a little bit like change a bit maybe the wavetable or something to get the exact sounds you want. And this is crazy. I think I like this one. And Yeah, that's it. And so there is reverb now. I'm going to increase this a little bit. So as this function is raising, I'm sending the signal to a reverb, so that like it gives like this, you know, big space effect. And another trick you can use is to pitch up or down your modulator, and it gives different timbres. You can go maybe to 24 semitones, and you have like crazy timbres going out from it. 12 is actually nice. I really like the three of them. It's more like it feels alive, sort of. All right, so basically I have what I wanted. Maybe I can use a last little trick. I'm going to use a bit crusher, and we've kind of worked on the bit crusher, so I'm doing the same thing here. I'm going to map the dry wet of the bit crusher on the function, and I'm going to decrease a little bit the bit depth to give some texture. And we have added two features. So the scale is kind of nice. So if I turn on this, let's mute the modulation. What it does, the scale, is that it makes it more precise for low volumes. So you don't have like drops out. Kind of convenient. So it's kind of helping to balance your bit crusher. So here I don't really want a lot of it. 8 is kind of fine. This. And I'm going to bring some downsampling, just a little bit. And we have a new feature here as well. It's the jitter, and it will create some kind of mistakes on the processing of the downsampling and create some artifacts. Like this, I like it. And now I'm going to map the modulation again. All right. So yeah. So basically, this is not really a patch that you want to play, right? It's kind of a sound effect more than a patch that you play. But I really like this kind of sound. All right. So I'm kind of done here. Using this trick, you can do a lot of different stuff. You know, if you change the shape of your modulator, it will change the you can go crazy with this kind of logic. And you can do pretty much everything you want. You just get the timbre and then you use it the way you want. You can get something rhythmic or... I want a kind of swoosh, so I will keep it that way. So yeah, that's it. I hope you discovered a few tricks, and of course I didn't cover everything from the update because there are a lot of stuff to treat, but I hope you learned some stuff, and I think now we can jump to the questions, and I will be happy to answer them. En quoi? Mon Skype. So we run minutes. Okay. All right. Time for the questions. First question. What Mac are you using on this? Question from Jazz. I'm using a MacBook Pro. Actually, I don't really remember. I think it's from 2019. I think it's the standard model. It's not like the huge beast, but yeah, that's the one. It's a 15-inch. It's not a 17-inch actually. Question from David Hunter. This seems like it could be a VST equivalent of the Korg wave state. Is that accurate? Well, there are some similarities, of course, but it's kind of a different beast, I would say. You know, you can't really compare. Like, there are different forms of synthesis in Pigments, and I don't really know all the ins and outs from the wave state. So what is like wavetable? Maybe you can find some similarities, but overall, I think Pigments is kind of like a Swiss knife, and it's not only about wavetables. It's like granular synthesis, harmonic synthesis, huge tons of modulators, even analog engines, a lot of effects. So, you know, you can find some similarities, but it's not really the same. Question from Arturia. No. Okay. Another question from Nemen. Are custom skins planned for the future? We've thought about it. Currently, we kind of keep the control of the skins, and you know, to have custom skins, we need kind of a different code infrastructure. So right now, it's not possible. But if you guys send a ton of emails to our support team, and ask for it, of course, I will notice this because I'm always checking the requests from the customers. So if a lot of you guys want to have custom skins, well, just send us emails, and if you manifest enough, I guess we'll have to put it inside. So of course, if it's possible, but you know, just ask for it, and if you're a lot to ask, well, we'll be happy to add it. From Wormhole, when is the next Sun engine coming? This is a good question, actually. And here it's kind of tricky because, of course, more engine, more fun. But at the same time, more engine means more CPU, means more complexity, more learning curve. So at some point, you know, it's kind of risky to make the product too big. And, you know, I had some ideas, you know, why not a kind of DX7 engine, this kind of stuff. There are plenty of ideas that can be really, really exciting. But it needs to be really worth it to add it, because we don't really want to end up being like a factory or something, you know. We want something that is still appealing and not too intimidating. So, you know, if it's worth it, it's not excluded, but we'll see one day. A question from Adria. Where can I find the wavelength sound banks? So in Pigments, can they see my screen still? So in Pigments, you have in the preset browser the preset store, and here you have the special offers with the 3 sound banks, or actually all the sound banks that you can browse and preview and purchase. Otherwise, you can just go to the website, and basically on the Pigments webpage, you will see a link or offers that are addressed to you with special prices these days. So you should definitely check it out. All right, the question from Austin. Can we hear some of the lo-fi presets? So I'm really sorry. I didn't want to spend too much time to preview them. But I'm sure you can find some videos on YouTube, because a lot of people have made like a no talk preset previews, and I think I've seen someone demonstrating these presets. And there were another question about the Lo-fi collection presets. So I think this is the same question, actually. So I'm sorry, I didn't play them, but I'm sure you can check on YouTube. And if you have Pigments, actually, you can preview some of the presets from the in-app store. So I think you have like 10 or 15 presets to preview. So this is a start. Otherwise, YouTube can probably help you. So there is one question asking for support. Okay, I used to work at the support, so I could probably help, but this is not really the place. But we have really an amazing support team, and they are really fast to reply, and they are really, really competent. So if you have a problem, do not hesitate. Drop a mail, and I'm pretty sure you will have an answer before like 24 to 48 hours. You can even say, Edouard, ask me to send you a message, and they will be happy to help you. Question from Undermine Audio. What is the first thing you start with when you patch? Presets or I'm new to Pigments? Well, it really depends on what you do, actually. From myself, sometimes I want to be productive and I'm just checking presets, and I want to find the presets that kind of suit what I'm doing, and I'm tweaking them a little bit, and this is when I want to save time. Otherwise, when you want to design your own sound, well, there is no rule, actually. I think the important is that you do something that inspires you. So if you are maybe afraid of an engine or some specific stuff, maybe you can start where you are comfortable, and you can just move step by step. And basically, the more you're doing this, the more you're exploring, and the more you are mastering the tool. And sometimes what's great is to watch a few tutorials, this kind of stuff, or even checking presets that you like and try to explore each and every part of it to dissect it and understand how it's been made. And there is no real rule with this, but I guess it's all about spending some time, exploration, and the most important, I think, it's to have fun. And as soon as you're interested in having fun with what you do, then step by step you will get better, and you will start to understand more and more parts of the instrument. Question from Tom. Would the Minilab Mark II be a good choice for this since it has 16 knobs? Well, you can do your own mappings. We have mappings. It's great. We also have Minilab 3, so with not 16 knobs, but like 8 and faders. So it's really a matter of taste. Of course, all our instruments have like MIDI configurations, so you can, if you're a knob guy, you can definitely use the controls of the controllers. Then it's all about what do you prefer. A question from Britt. I love your products, thank you. Are you ever going to do any old Roland synths? So this is a V-Collection question. Actually, we have done the Jupiter 8 and the Juno 6 already. And for other synthesizers, well, we'll see in the future. I can't really say right now. I don't want to spoil the surprise. Nathan asked, what's the chance we see a collaboration with GPU Audio in the future versions for some massive optimization or voice scale-up? I don't know. To be honest, this is really experimental still. I'm sure we can still improve on the CPU by itself. But if it appears that GPU is interesting and that we have some headroom to get better, I'm pretty sure we'll jump into it at some point. Right now, I kind of feel it's experimental still. I'm not really an expert on this, but who knows what the future will say. If GPUs appear to be as good as mining cryptocurrencies, so why not? A question from MJ. How do you add LFOs to macros? So basically, I'm not sure it's correct. Macros and LFOs are both modulators. So if you assign a macro to a knob or LFO, it's kind of the same. The difference is the macro is turned by your mouse or by a knob that you mapped on the macro. So if you want to control the movement of an LFO with a macro, then you need to use the sidechains. So when you hover this center strip, you will see a assign button on the modulators, and you need to use this on the LFO. Map your LFO on the parameter of your choice, and in this center strip in assign mode, you will see that there is a second line, and it's called sidechain. And this is what you need to use. In the sidechain section, you need to select the macro of your choice and set an amount. And if you set the amount to 1, the LFO will not have any effect when the macro is at 0. And when the macro will be at 1, the LFO will have full effect on the parameter. So this is called sidechains, basically. And commonly in synthesizers and vintage synths, people are doing this with the mod wheel. So the mod wheel is sidechaining the LFO to do a vibrato. This is pretty common. So other question from Simon. No, it's just called Pigments without version number. Will this mean future major updates will keep patch compatibility and be free as well? So thank you for how you handled this so far. Yeah, it's a pleasure. I mean, you know, everybody's happy with the way we handle the updates and make it free and so on. So this was a wish in the beginning, and I think it's still a wish. Of course, then we need to sell sounds and all of that, but I think a lot of people are really happy to buy the sounds from us because the updates are free. And as I'm managing the product, my will is to keep this that way in the future. About patch compatibility, so far we want to keep it. And if one day we drop compatibility, we'll always make a new product so that you can still use the former one, but that's not the objective right now. We may want to do that one day, probably in a long time, if we want to change some stuff that we cannot really change without breaking all your projects. But so far, we don't really need to do that, so we're supposed to continue that way, and I'm sure it will. Another question from Kip. Admittedly, Pigment still overwhelms me. I can understand. I think I need to let go of aiming to master and just start experimenting instead. Yeah, I guess this is where you start. You know, you can balance between watching tutorials. So of course, learning reading manuals is not always fun, and it's a blend of the two, I guess. Sometimes you can just experiment randomly, and happy accidents are really something common in music, trust me. I think everybody went into this path where they didn't really understand the tools, but without understanding, we were doing crazy stuff that were actually good. And at some point you learn and you're not really doing the same things because it doesn't really make sense in your mind. So of course you need to learn, and it's always better to be quick and efficient, because if you have something in mind, it's easier to do it if you know what you are doing. But at the same time, experimenting without really being serious and just letting yourself be carried out by the experimentations, it's really nice and rewarding. So you can just balance, and everybody is doing this, actually. Another question from Oscar. Does the Minilab link automatically to Pigments? I have the Minilab 3. Does Pigments automap to it? We have templates. So on the top right section, there is a jog wheel. And here you have the MIDI configs, and this is where you can handle this. And another question from Austin. Are there new stock samples included in the Pigments update? Yes. So there are 64 new samples, 64 new wavetables. So I may be a bit wrong with the numbers, but you get the idea. And there are like something like 50 new noises. So it's kind of a lot, actually. So the new wavetables, I recommend to check the Pigments 4 section in the browser. These are really nice. So congratulations to the person who made them. It's really good. And the new samples, it's really there is a wide variety of stuff, from neuro-based samples to like classic synth sounds to acoustic instruments. So you can really do crazy stuff with them and blend acoustic, digital, and plenty of stuff. So it's really opening new doors and new sonorities. Question from Andre. Is there a chance for 32 or 64 steps in the sequencer? Like right now, my opinion would be not really, because the approach of the sequencer is to be more generative than like writing long stuff. You know, you can randomize, you can offset, like have different like length, so you can create some evolving sequences, and it avoids writing long stuff. If at some point user feel that it's really necessary, why not? But I think the approach was kind of different. It was to make something like evolving and complex, not complex, but like elaborate from something short with these like generative functions. So, and last question from Sergey: what about physical modeling engine with noise resonator section? Have you thought about something like this? Yeah, of course. So we already have a resonator in the granular engine, but of course it's not the same. So then we need to figure like, is it great in Pigments? What about polyphony involving the physical modeling, this kind of stuff? So yeah, we thought about a lot of different technologies, physical modeling included, and yeah, it's interesting. I'm not saying we are going to do it, but of course it's interesting. And I think that's all for the questions, guys. Like, once again, I'm really happy to be here. I'm really proud about where Pigments is, and it's thanks to you, actually. It's really a wonderful instrument, and I'm super happy to work on this synthesizer for like 1 year and a half now. And the team with me is pretty much the same as me. We are really motivated. We really love this instrument, and thanks to your support, we'll continue to bring these free updates and new sounds. And there is a lot to do, and I think a bright future for this instrument. So thank you again for supporting us. Thank you for the kind words because of the free updates on the videos and forums. It's really awesome, and it makes our end of year really, really, really awesome. So thank you all. Thank you for supporting us, and I hope we'll see next time for a new update. Take care.